Hey everyone, just wanted to give you a quick heads up. The second Global Product Owner Summit is coming soon. You can get all the details at bit.ly/Product Owner 2024. That's bit.ly/Product Owner 2024. And it's all lowercase, all one word. Oh, and stick with us until the end of the episode to know the dates and the tracks that we have for you in this year's summit. But for now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from the UK is Dave Smith. Hey, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Bosco. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So Dave has over 20 years in experience in training and consulting. Having taught Scrum, he continues to be active in the Agile community, mentoring and helping others who are joining the community now. Dave, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Okay. Well, this is something we talked about earlier. I'm actually a trainer rather than a Scrum Master. I have been a Scrum Master, but being a trainer, perhaps the question should really be, how did you get into Scrum? I happened to be at one company teaching ITIL, and during the course, they all said, can we take a break at 10 o'clock because we've got our daily stand-up? And I didn't know what that meant, although I knew what a stand-up meeting was. So they left and they came back 10 minutes later and I thought, well, that was quick. And they said, yeah, we didn't have a great deal to discuss. And then we were talking a bit about them. And one guy said, do you know anything about Scrum? And they talked about the stand-up. Now, ITIL, you may know, is based on a lot of Deming's philosophy from his Out of the Crisis. But he took a lot of this over to Japan. So I knew about the Japanese stand-up meeting. I knew about Kaizen. I knew about continual improvement. And I didn't realize that was actually in Scrum as well. Now, I was back at the same company. This is way back in 2010. I was back there. And one of the guys on there actually said, do you know much about Agile? Well, they'd already been teaching some programming courses, and one of them was UML, RUP, and there was this typical waterfall mentality. And in there, they talked about Agile, but the only thing I understood from Agile was, don't bother too much with documentation and design. Just go ahead and do it. And then if you have to do it a second and third time, go back and redo the design. Now, really, that wasn't Agile. That was refactoring, but that was my knowledge of Agile. And much later, I taught one of our Scrum trainers, ITIL, and then he taught me Scrum. And suddenly I saw the links between them and I realized where Scrum could be used. But of course, I then gained the PSM back in, I think, 2013 or so, but I didn't know sufficient about Scrum until I started teaching it. And then I started to pick up things because you know a topic, and then when people start to ask you questions about it, it gets you to stop and think. And that's when your knowledge starts to expand. And I believe I don't know enough about a topic unless I can actually teach it to somebody. So I have to learn. For somebody who's doing a standard level, I need to know advanced level. People doing advanced level, they need to know superhero level. You always need to know that level higher. And as part of a lot of our training, we need to come up with anecdotes, stories, put things into context, explain to people how this happened to us. And I found that was very useful in the Scrum world. So that's really been my first taste of it. And even though I've consulted and supported people in the Scrum world with their Scrum knowledge, and I tried to address a lot of misinformation about it, I have been a Scrum Master for, I think, the best part of 2 weeks. And it wasn't really a very good one because we didn't really do very good Scrum. And I was told when we had the sprint review, the retrospective, when we talked a bit about our practices, somebody said to me, you were savage in that.
What did they mean with that?
Well, they were saying, well, you were pointing out all of these things. And I said, yeah, but that's what Scrum is about. And we weren't doing any of that. We had a project manager. Somebody took minutes of every daily meeting. I mean, the only bit we really did right was actually a daily sync up. And it was great because I was working with people in the American time zone. So me and my colleague who worked during the day, then we would have the meeting at 5 o'clock and it was their morning, and they would carry on where they left off, and they would leave us information in a Slack channel that we would read the next morning from what they'd done that night. So we would carry on. So we almost had 24-hour coverage of the work. But when they said, well, you're the Scrum Master, can you Scrum us? What does that mean? Basically, they wanted somebody to create the Outlook invite to say, you're all going to be meeting on the Zoom channel. That's what their idea of a Scrum Master did. There was no coaching, no mentoring, and really it was quite a great exercise in malfunction.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are many such anti-patterns. One thing that you said, though, that I think is very important for all of the Scrum Masters out there, it really is only when you start teaching others that you start learning the subject, whatever the subject is. Like, for example, I've been working and writing about no estimates for many years, but I gave myself a challenge lately of actually presenting the idea of how to apply no estimates at portfolio level. Right, so it's not one project; it's a bunch of projects. How do we apply no estimates at portfolio level? And of course, I didn't know because I had not done that. But in order to discover it, I started reading, and then I started teaching others. And it was through the teaching that actually a process emerged, right? And the insights that I needed in order to apply no estimates at portfolio level really came from that teaching side. They didn't come from practice because I was literally trying to discover how to do it. So that's also one aspect for us as Scrum Masters to take into account, right? If there's something we find difficult, the best way to learn it is to actually try to teach it, and not try to teach it in a way that forcing others to do it or trying to convince other people, but just sharing information.
That's correct. I've often said if I'm training 10 people, there's actually 11 students in the room because I'm learning from them. And very often some stinkers of questions, and when people say, well, why is it that? Actually gets you to stop and think, actually, I don't know. I need to look into that. And I think it's a great discussion point, a great collaboration point when you get some great searching questions, and it really does stop and expand your own knowledge.
So talking about questions, there's another question we ask every Monday, Dave. And here we want to explore a difficult moment as a Scrum Master. Now, I don't know if you're going to talk about that 2-week experience that you had or something else that you've learned through your training classes. But let's explore a difficult moment for a Scrum Master, how it started, what was the context. Maybe there was some discussions going on. Maybe there was a conflict. I don't know. And then, of course, we'll discuss later how we would solve that. But first, share that Scrum Master challenge with us.
Well, in terms of failures, I always believe fail means first attempt at learning. And I did read somebody that said, I never fail, I either succeed or I learn. And I thought that's not a bad idea. Now, I've got a huge amount of stories on failure, and I'd like to think I've got a huge amount of lessons that I have learned from them as well. But even at my age, I still think I'm making too many mistakes and still not learning from them. But I will recount one failure. Many years ago, before I was a trainer, the training company I worked for, we used to set up equipment ready for the training courses. So there was a setup for a 2 or 3 day course, let the course run, then strip it down. And often we ran these at organizations' own buildings. So I would prepare the kit to go out. So the day previous, the driver would pick it up, ship it out there, run the course, strip it down, bring it back, and I'll prepare it for the next course. Now, due to a scheduling conflict, I didn't have time to get kit prepared. So one driver brought a lot of kit back, and I said, right, get it out there, and I'm going to get another set of discs prepared. I'll give them to the trainer to take. So it was a bit of a hasty turnaround. As a result, I didn't know that the kit that came back had some faulty cables in. So when it went out, this cable, unfortunately, was a network cable. And at the time it was using a ring topology. It basically meant the entire course couldn't run. And we had to give a $6,000 refund to the company because it was a waste of 2 days. Now, I had all the excuses in my mind when the MD came down. And he came to speak to me about it. And I thought, you get defensive. You come up with, you pre-create all the excuses. And he said, I've only got 4 questions at this point. Number 1, was anybody hurt? Number 2, what can we do now to fix things? And number 3, what can we do in future to prevent things? And number 4, was it accidental or deliberate? And I thought, okay, so where's the question about finding the person and ripping them a new one? But no, he was totally not in brainstorming mode. He just said, look, it's happened. What can we learn from it? Now, that was a point at which I suddenly became transparent about mistakes. And I said, yeah, the mistake was me. We had a course Monday, Tuesday, then another course. This stuff had to go out Wednesday to Friday. I didn't have a chance to turn it around. I didn't examine the box. I made the assumption everything was fine. It was poor communication. Now, what did come from there was that we then had a process change, is that we bought another set of kit. So kit that came back Tuesday didn't go out Wednesday. It went out Thursday. There had to be a day's break between them. Or on Tuesday, I prepared kit for Wednesday. That went out on the Tuesday, and old kit came back elsewhere. So there was never any situation where I couldn't guarantee assurance that the kit was good. Now, what I also learned from there was about owning failures, and it's about not just who did the failure, but what can you learn from it. So at some point later in the future, when something went wrong and they said, well, how did this happen? I put my hand up and said, well, that was my fault. I should have contacted the customer about the following. I didn't. I made the assumptions it was this. That was my judgment call. Next time, I'm going to make sure that I actually change that. That I do make the point of contacting the customer and just confirm it. And I kind of live with that from this point onwards. I often think mistakes are our learning opportunities. And I know, and again, this is from Deming and the Japanese world. There was a saying by the Japanese about a foolish man breaks something and tells nobody. An intelligent man breaks something and tells somebody. A wise man breaks something and tells everybody. And it was about the intelligent man knows that it needs to be fixed, so I need to find somebody to fix it. But the wise man says, as well as breaking it, I need to find out who can fix it, but also let others learn from my mistake. And this is their kind of mentality, isn't it? About the thing has already happened, but how can we make best use of it? And I thought, yeah, maybe I should actually email everyone and say, look, I cocked up on the following. Do this to make sure you don't repeat my mistake. And that is my failure.
Absolutely. One thing that for me is kind of crucial for Scrum Masters out there, as well as for team members, of course, is that ownership of something that goes wrong. And sometimes it's not a mistake, because let's not forget that at the time the mistake happened, whatever we did might have been the best we could have done with the information, knowledge, and skills we would have had at that time. And hence why I really like that quote about the wise man breaks something and tells everybody, because at that time we have a choice of, I think we could call it succumbing to guilt and hiding the information from others, or owning that, sharing it with others so that others don't have to make the same mistake. And of course, the cheapest way to learn is to learn from other people's mistakes. In fact, that's why we have this whole episode here on Mondays, right? We talk about mistakes so that others will learn and don't have to go through the same mistakes again. So I think this is a very important message also to Scrum Masters and team members out there, that first, Scrum Masters need to create an environment where team members can easily own their mistakes and talk openly and freely about those mistakes. And then, of course, the team members to be able to not only share, hey, this is the mistake I've done, but immediately turn that conversation into a learning aspect, which is, okay, but I would like to do this differently next time. Do you agree, or do you have some better ideas, right? Because what that leader displayed or did when they talked to you about those 4 questions, which I invite everybody to go back and listen again, because they are very powerful questions. What he did was to take the mistake as a gift and transform it into an improvement opportunity. And that is truly from the Japanese mindset of continuous improvement. We take something that goes wrong as a gift, not as a catastrophe, and we turn it into something that can become then later on, something better, something we might not even have imagined before we went through that mistake.
Well, certainly from the person who asked me the 4 questions, number 1 was anybody hurt? It had me change my idea about the priorities. And I thought, I didn't even think of that. I was thinking about how much money we lost and who's going to be blamed. However, you're correct that these kind of questions can only come out, or rather the owning up to mistakes can only come out if the environment allows it. And there can be many places where there's egos, people get lamented for making a mistake. The attitudes towards it can be quite counterproductive. As a result, there isn't that psychologically safe environment, and it is up to the SM to build one. Now, I know as a trainer, I build a safe environment for people training because all my course materials contain things that deliberately get people to make mistakes, but I also make mistakes in front of people to show that, number 1, I'm not perfect, but number 2, it's okay to make mistakes. These, again, are learning opportunities, aren't they? So if I make mistakes and I show I'm not perfect, it's okay for students to do it as well. It can't be anything wrong.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing that, Dave. Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around and listening to the details of the Product Owner Summit, this year's global summit dedicated to a critical Scrum role, the Product Owner role, of course. We'll have some amazing keynotes and 4 tracks filled with first-hand stories and experiences for product owners to learn more about that critical Scrum role. The summit will take place between April 23rd and 25th, so book your calendars. There will be loads of sessions for you to attend. One of the keynotes will be Dave West, the product owner and CEO at Scrum.org, one of the largest Scrum organizations in the world. If you want to know more, check out the details at bit.ly/product owner 2024. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/product owner 2024. We will also have 4 tracks. The 4 tracks will cover cross-functional product ownership. That's track 1. As Pixar's Ratatouille said, not every idea can be a great idea, but a great idea can come from anywhere. And this quote emphasizes the importance of a product owner being open to all ideas, regardless of the source, and also challenges us to focus on getting good ideas from everywhere and involving the whole team in the product owner role and responsibilities. The second track is designing products for growth, where we explore how to craft products ready for scalable growth, merging practical strategies with innovation. The idea here is to learn to design products for growth, whether it is sales or customer acquisition. The third track is Know Your Users, user-centric approaches for Agile development. In this track, we learn to master user-centric techniques in Agile development, to deeply understand customer needs and transform insights into meaningful UX designs that focus on engagement and satisfaction. This is a track ideal for innovation-focused Agile teams. And the fourth track, one of the most exciting tracks in my opinion, is product development with AI, ideas for product owners. Not only do we discuss about using AI in the products, but also AI for product owners to learn to make a bigger impact with the help of the AI tools that we already have. The Product Owner Summit will also present to you great opportunities to network with your peers. So get your ticket and join our Slack. You can get the ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/product owner 2024. As always, we have free tickets and also the paid tickets that help to support this podcast. So check them out at bit.ly/product owner 2024. That's all lowercase, all one word, product owner 2024. I'll see you in the summit floor.